Welcome back, movie watchers. Thank you guys for stopping by my channel. Today I'll be giving you guys 3 movie reviews in one video. Last week I talked about Belfast, Come On, and Passing. These are all movies that I had missed in theaters that I really want to talk about, that are considered award contenders. I've been really wanting to talk about some of them. So today I'll be talking about The French Dispatch, directed by Wes Anderson. I'm also going to talk about Spencer. Neon sent over this really nice big box set of their For Your Consideration films. So really cool to talk about Spencer. And the one I don't have is Last Night in Soho, directed by Edgar Wright. So the first one I want to talk about is The French Dispatch, directed by Wes Anderson. A love letter to journalists set in an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city that brings to life a collection of stories published in The French Dispatch. So this was released at the end of October, and I didn't have a chance to see this one in theaters. I believe it came out the same weekend as The Last Night in Soho. I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan. I like all of his movies, and I was very excited, obviously, for this movie. This is something different than what we've seen Wes Anderson do in the past. It tells multiple different stories in one movie. We have various actors from Benicio del Toro to Timothée Chalamet in the film. This has a star-studded cast, and each segment within here is really intriguing. Some do feel a little bit brief. I think that's where some of the problems come within this movie, but I found each segment to be really interesting. The first one that really pops out of mind is the very simple one with Owen Wilson as he's riding his bike through this town, pinpointing certain parts of the small town to go into this journal. And although it feels very brief, it screams Wes Anderson. The directing of it, how clean it looks, everything is in shot, in frame. It looks great. I just wish that would have gone on for quite some time. I honestly could have watched a whole movie about Owen Wilson riding a bike throughout this small village. But I thought that was pretty interesting. This is an anthology movie with 3 different storylines. The first one titled The Concrete Masterpiece. The second one titled Revisions to a Manifesto. And the last one, The Private Dining Room of the Police Commissioner. They're all very different in their own way, and each different segment has an actor that really leads it and does a really good job with it. Jeffrey Wright is in the third segment, and I really liked his performance in there. Timothée Chalamet and Frances McDermott are in the second one. The first one has Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Léa Seydoux, who we just saw in No Time to Die. So each one has a really good cast within it, but each one offers a very unique story. And my problem with this movie, and although I do like this movie a lot, is that each segment does feel very brief. Since it is under 2 hours long, you don't get the most amount of time to develop a full story, connections for these characters, development for them. It all just feels very brief. And you know, after you watch the first one, how long each one is going to be, so you anticipate the second and third one ending fairly shortly. But I think that he offered just enough within each segment to make me really interested in each one, how he's directing these segments. It's visually stunning. It's delightful to look at. Any big Wes Anderson film will find something to appreciate about this movie. It's an ode to journalism done in the right way. There's a bunch of oddball characters that fill out the movie. Everything about Wes Anderson is in this movie, filled in with, fairly short segments, but also quite interesting. I'm going to go ahead and give The French Dispatch a B. The next film I wanted to talk about was Spencer, directed by Pablo Larraín. This is a story about Princess Diana, played by Kristen Stewart. I was really looking forward to this movie for quite some time. I'm always interested in seeing someone that blew up at a young age in a big blockbuster movie and kind of see how they change things around. In this case, for Kristen Stewart with Twilight. I do not care for Twilight at all, and I do not like her performances in those movies, but she has really changed since then, and this is a really Oscar-worthy movie and performance as well. Marriage between Princess Diana and Prince Charles has long since grown cold. Though rumors of affairs and a divorce abound, peace is ordained for the Christmas festivities at the Queen's estate. There's eating and drinking, shooting and hunting. Diana knows the game, but this year things will be profoundly different. This film rests on Kristen Stewart's shoulders. She carries this film so well. Her performance, like I said, is very Oscar worthy. She absolutely gets lost in the role of Princess Diana. Not only does she slightly look like Princess Diana, but all of the mannerisms and how she handles the character, she just gives one of her best performances. I was so enthralled with Spencer just off of her performance. And the film looks great. It has a vintage feel to it. It doesn't feel modern at all. It has that feel of when the time period was. And so I was really impressed with the directing of it as well. It has, it's very specific directing, making sure you kind of soak in all of the key moments, all of the setting, the costume designs, everything, making sure that you pay attention to everything within the movie. I also appreciated that it took place only in a short period of time. It wasn't a film that was bouncing around from very specific points of Princess Diana's life and her relationship with her husband and her children. It was all in a very short time period. By doing that, you're able to understand the character within that moment in that part of her life. The relationship with her sons and her husband and the queen as well. It's not starting to grow relationships or tear relationships down. It's all in one spot, all in one time period. And I really did like that. It tells a story that we already knew in a more disturbing light, because it is regarded as a little bit of a fantasy. Certain moments, she's anxious or angry with something that is going on. See how she reacts to it, and also these fantasy elements are playing out in her head. We're seeing the scene play out, and that's kind of how she is feeling, things that she wish would happen, kind of how she's handling certain situations. And those moments really bring out how upset she was, all of the emotions that she's carrying. She has to act a certain way around the queen and her children and her husband, but she's bottling things in, and we see that kind of play out within this movie, and Kristen Stewart's there to handle all of those dramatic scenes very well. I'm gonna go ahead and give Spencer a B+. And the last film I wanted to talk about is The Last Night in Soho, directed by Edgar Wright. An inspiring fashion designer is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s, where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer. However, the glamour is not all it appears to be, and the dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something far darker. Let me just start off this short review of saying that this is one of the best edited movies of this year. There is so many scenes really early on where I was just really impressed with how Edgar Wright was handling splitting the past and the present, and having these two characters intertwined into one scene. We have Anya Taylor-Joy in the 1960s, Thomasin McKenzie in present day, and she's somehow able to see everything in the 60s and a murder that she saw take place. But there's a lot of times where we are focused on a mirror, and we see maybe Anya Taylor-Joy walk down the stairs. We see Thomasin McKenzie walk down on the mirror side, and we see just edited very nicely. There's a lot of transitions that are handled so well. Right as I was watching, I said, this is one of the best edited films I have seen this year. It's just split together so nicely. But as the movie is progressing, we're starting to see more of this young girl in the 60s, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, start to have a music career. We see a guy played by Matt Smith that is starting to, be buddy with her and start to kind of manipulate her. That's where the drama and the mystery comes into play. We see how this young girl is constantly approached by men, and Thomasin McKenzie's character is seeing this, but she can't intervene at all. She's just there watching everything, and she wants to help the young girl. It's very frustrating at times, but in a good way. But we see this young girl trying to help out, but she can't. This mystery developed very nicely throughout the movie. Setting up the character in the beginning, her wanting to go to London, and her grandmother telling her, it's not going to be what you expect it to be. But she's very excited to go to fashion school. She gets there, people are not very nice to her, and she finds a new home to live in that a young girl was murdered in. And so we see that mystery play out, and how can she solve it in today's time. There is a lot of thrilling moments throughout this film. The performances are really good. They can go from being very happy and upbeat and excited about potential careers to very disturbing and very upsetting moments for these characters. And both female leads in here handled these performances so well. A lot of dramatic scenes, a lot of horrific moments as well. It doesn't hold back on some of those violent scenes. This is a very unique Edgar Wright film. I feel like a lot of his movies are at times comedies, like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End. But then he has those action movies like Scott Pilgrim, which also is a comedy, and Baby Driver. Now, this one's very different compared to anything I have seen him do before. But the directing, the editing, the acting makes it a really good Edgar Wright film. I'm going to go ahead and give The Last Night in Soho a B+. So there you guys have it, 3 reviews in one video. I got another video coming next Sunday for some more videos. I still want to talk about Coda, The Green Knight, Flea, The Last Duel, House of Gucci, Red Rocket, and Serrano. Those are just a few that I would love to talk to you guys about. Hopefully within the next few weeks, I'll be doing a video every Sunday for 3 movie reviews. So I do recommend checking out all of these movies. They are all entertaining in their own way. And stay tuned for more movie reviews next week. My name is Just Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.